Welcome to today's vlog. Thank you so much for joining me. Since we moved back to Doncaster just over a year ago, sadly a number of folk that we knew when we were formerly here in Doncaster have died. Some have been involved in their funeral services, and well, it's happened again. A gentleman who was a member of my church here in Doncaster Priory Place Methodist Church, a chap called David Himsworth, died recently. And David was such a great member of our church. He and his wife Anne were very much involved in the life of the church. David was our church treasurer during the time I was here. He was a gifted musician. He played the organ often. He served at Rest a While, which is a coffee drop-in, and always had a smile on his face. He was a gentleman. He was a gentleman. He had a humble heart, the heart of a servant. Remember, Jesus said when the disciples were arguing amongst themselves, which was the greatest, he said, the greatest among you is the one who serves, the one who is willing to be as a servant. So the time will come when we give thanks for David's life, even though he will be greatly missed. There's much to give thanks for, and I give thanks for David and Anne. Anne is still alive, so we pray for her and her family. I was, in one sense, reminded of that when I read a page from this book, Choose Life, 365 Daily Readings by Simon Guillebaud. And he writes about the famous journalist and explorer Henry Morton Stanley. You remember, or you probably heard about the story of Stanley going to Africa and coming across David Livingstone in Central Africa. He spent 4 months with Dr. Livingstone. This is what he wrote about that experience. I went to Africa as prejudiced as the biggest atheist in London. But there came a long time for reflection. I saw this solitary old man and asked myself, how on earth does he stay here? What is it that inspires him? For months I found myself wondering at the old man carrying out all that was said in the Bible. But little by little, my sympathy was aroused. Seeing his piety, his gentleness, his zeal, his earnestness, I was converted by him, although he had not specifically tried to do it. It was not Livingstone's preaching which converted me. It was Livingstone's living. So Stanley went to Africa as a convinced atheist. He spent some months with David Livingstone. Yes, he heard what David Livingstone said in speaking about the gospel, but it was David Livingstone's life that had such an impact on Stanley that he too gave his life to Christ. And I see David, the gentleman I've just been talking about who died recently, as someone who, well, he wasn't an extrovert. He was a quiet, humble man, but a man with fun. He had a smile on his face. He had a servant heart. And I'm sure that his life influenced others in such a positive way. He was a great example. I never heard him complaining or grumbling, but he was willing to serve. And he served his Lord with great dedication. I'm sure that as he enters into the presence of Jesus, he hears those words, well done, good and faithful servant. And so there's a challenge for us from David's life, from the other David Livingstone. And we need to ask ourselves, as people look at us, what do they see? Do our lives match our words? do we practice what we preach? God bless you. Thank you so much for listening today.